The storm did not arrive all at once. It announced itself the way this world did everything. Slowly, with patience older than fear. First came the pressure shift, a tightening in the ears, a subtle vibration in the bones of the cabin, as if the planet itself were inhaling. Then the wind changed direction, carrying with it the smell of ionized dust and mineral ash, sharp enough to sting the sinuses. The sky above the plateau darkened, not into night, but into layers, rolling bands of violet and bruised blue, threaded with distant lightning that never quite struck the ground. Inside the cabin, the lights flickered. Elias Wren did not look up right away. He sat at the narrow metal table, with his gloves laid out beside a half-empty ration tin, his hands resting flat against the scarred surface as if he needed to remind himself that it was real, that he was still here, that gravity still held him, that the universe had not quietly erased him in the last hour while he wasn't paying attention. The cabin had been built to last 5 years. It was entering its 12th. Every surface told that story. Weld seams repaired with mismatched alloys. A recycled air unit humming at a pitch just slightly wrong. A viewport reinforced twice over, its transparency clouded by microfractures from storms like this one. Storms that came more frequently now as the planet's thin atmosphere destabilized. The cabin stood alone on a basalt shelf overlooking a dead valley. No settlements, no beacons, no traffic lanes in the sky. That was the point. Elias had come here to disappear. He was older than his reflection suggested. His body kept functional by gene maintenance protocols he no longer trusted, and augments he could no longer replace. His hair had gone steel gray years ago, his face carved into angles by radiation exposure and regret. His left knee ached whenever the temperature dropped, a reminder of a shuttle crash on a moon whose name no longer mattered. He listened to the storm approach and counted his breaths. The world outside howled. Then the sensor chimed. It was soft, almost polite. Elias frowned and reached for the console mounted beside the table. External motion alert. Proximity breach within 200 meters. That shouldn't have been possible. The storms drove everything into hiding. Native life, drones, even the automated scavenger rigs abandoned by the old Survey Corps. He toggled the external feed. At first, the image was nothing but distortion. Wind-driven particulates slashed across the camera's view in silver streaks. The audio channel screamed with interference. He adjusted the filters, narrowing the spectrum, isolating thermal signatures. Shapes emerged. Multiple, tall, lean, moving with a coordination that no human squad ever quite achieved. Their heat signatures were higher than baseline human, their silhouettes elongated by digitigrade legs and crested headgear. Or perhaps natural anatomy. They moved against the wind instead of with it, using the storm not as an obstacle but as cover. Elias's heart slowed rather than raced. Panic required hope. He had learned that years ago. Huntresses. The word surfaced from old briefings, from half-forgotten intelligence packets transmitted across the fringe decades earlier. Nomadic predator clans native to this sector evolved on high-gravity worlds with volatile climates. They traveled in packs, bonded through complex social hierarchies, and were rumored, never confirmed, to mark territory not with structures but with memory. The cabin's external lights flared automatically as the figures approached, casting harsh white beams through the storm. They stopped just beyond the perimeter. Elias's hand hovered near the emergency lock override. The door was reinforced, rated against environmental pressure and small arms fire. It would hold. For a while. Another sensor chimed. Atmospheric integrity falling. The storm was worse than predicted. If they remained outside much longer, even the Huntresses' physiology might not withstand it. Elias exhaled slowly. Survival was rarely about choosing between good and bad. More often, it was about choosing which future regret you could live with. He stood, joints protesting, and keyed the outer hatch. The door slid open with a hydraulic groan, and the storm rushed in like a living thing. They entered without hesitation. 6 of them. Up close, they were more striking than the grainy intelligence footage had ever conveyed. Their skin, or something like skin, was patterned in subtle iridescent bands that shifted color with movement, refracting the cabin's light into blues and silvers. Their eyes were large, dark, reflective, set forward in predatory alignment. Each wore layered armor grown rather than forged. Organic plates interwoven with technology that hummed faintly, harmonizing with the storm outside. They smelled of rain and metal and something feral. The door sealed behind them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Elias felt the weight of 6 gazes settle on him, assessing, cataloging. He was suddenly acutely aware of his age, his scars, the way his hands shook just slightly as adrenaline met exhaustion. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than the others, her crest marked with pale scars arranged in deliberate patterns. Authority then. The Alpha. She inclined her head. Not a bow, but an acknowledgement. "We take shelter," she said, her voice low and resonant, translated through a collar that pulsed faintly with each word. "The storm claims the unprepared." Elias nodded once. "You can stay until it passes." Her eyes lingered on his face, then flicked to the interior of the cabin. The repairs, the age, the solitude. "You are alone," she observed. "I wasn't always." Something shifted among them then, subtle but unmistakable. Interest, curiosity, a ripple through the pack's shod awareness. As they moved deeper into the cabin, shedding storm-slick cloaks and folding weapons into compact, almost elegant forms, Elias felt the space change. The cabin had always been silent, defined by absence. Now it hummed with alien presence, with warmth and breath, and the quiet clicks of a species that communicated as much through gesture and pheromone as through sound. He busied himself sealing secondary vents, stabilizing pressure. That was when he heard it. A whisper. Soft, almost lost beneath the storm's distant roar. "I saw him first," one of them murmured, her voice threaded with something intimate, proprietary. "Mine." Elias froze. The translation lagged a fraction of a second, just enough to let the raw tone reach him before the meaning settled in. It was not a threat. Not yet. It was a claim, spoken the way one might speak of a star, glimpsed alone before anyone else noticed it. He turned slowly. The huntress who had spoken stood near the back of the cabin, her gaze fixed on him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. She was smaller than the Alpha, her armor etched with symbols Elias didn't recognize, her crest adorned with a single strip of pale bioluminescence that pulsed in time with her breathing. The Alpha's head snapped toward her. A low sound passed between them, subaudible but heavy with meaning. Reprimand. Warning. The smaller huntress did not look away. Elias felt something tighten in his chest, not fear, but the echo of a memory he had tried very hard to bury. The last time someone had looked at him like that, humanity had still believed it was going to survive. The storm battered the cabin walls, and the universe waited. He gestured toward the seating alcove. "Sit. The structure will hold, but the pressure differentials might get rough." They complied, arranging themselves with practiced efficiency, their movements fluid and precise. Elias watched them from the edge of his vision as he returned to the console, his mind racing despite himself. He had not planned for this. He had planned for silence, for decay, for a slow fading into irrelevance on a world no one else wanted. Outside, lightning finally struck, illuminating the valley in stark alien light. Inside the cabin, something ancient and dangerous had just remembered that humanity still existed. And for the first time in years, Elias Wren was no longer alone.